Like Breck said, I was born, raised in Transylvania, Romania. Now, let's just take care of the elephant in the room. Dracula is not from Transylvania, okay? The whole story started with Bram Stoker, who took Vlad the Impaler as a basis for the story of Dracula. Vlad the Impaler was the ruler of Wallachia, which current-day Romania, not Transylvania. He was in exile in Transylvania for a very short time, locked up. So he's not from Transylvania. Also, I'm always a little shocked that people are so, especially Christians, are so infatuated with Dracula. Dracul means the devil. So his name is the devil. So as Christians, I think we need to just leave it be, leave it where Bram Stoker left it in the past. I was born into a family, very dysfunctional family. My parents were both drunks most of the time, which meant they abused me about every which way. I'm the oldest of four, so I went through a lot of physical and every kind of abuse. I'm not going to go through the list. When I was 3 years old, I had my first job as a dishwasher. When I was 4, by the time I was 4, I was dishwasher, babysitter, and I was also sewing pillowcases for sale. So that's how my life went on, from work to work. I have a sister, she's 3 years younger than me, and I have 2 brothers, they're 14 years younger than me. When I was about, in 1985, my father went after my sister with a hatchet, and I grabbed his wrist before he actually could hit her in the head. He was going to kill her. I grabbed him, I slammed him into a wall, and then threw him in a room and locked him up. Not the brightest moment of my life, but I had to save my sister from him. After which he disappeared for a week, and we didn't know where he went. By then I was already working in the foundry. I had a full-time job also. One day I'm coming home from work, and there he is in the house at the living room table with a smirk on his face, and I'm like, what is it? He said, "You're a dead man." I said, "Okay." Well, I didn't know what he meant, so I was curious. I mean, I'm a teenager at the time. Of course I was curious, and he said, well, he spent a week in the Carpathian Mountains in the monastery, and he paid them $500 to curse me to die, the monks. It was a common practice back home. I said, well, okay, what am I supposed to say to that? I'm a teenager. My father just wanted me dead, so I said, okay. Somehow the names got confused, or something got messed up, because a few months later he died. January 1st of 1986, he drunk himself to death. He had a lot of health problems, but eventually the alcohol took care of him. At his funeral, I swore to myself, nobody knew about this until a few years ago, I swore to provide a better life for my siblings than what I had. The only way I could do that, being a communist country, it was leaving the country. Now, in a communist country, you don't just pack up, get your passport, and leave. No, you have to leave illegally. Otherwise, they won't let you out. If they let you out, if by a weird coincidence you get a passport, they will make sure that you understand that your family is in their hands. So if you don't return at the date set by them, your family will be persecuted, without a doubt. So the only way out is it was illegally. So in September of 1987, I tried to escape the country into Hungary, and I got caught on the border of Romania and Hungary. I was with a friend. After they caught us, they put us through some torture, about 24 hours. The torture is not the worst part of it. The worst part of it is the anticipation, when they laid out all the equipment they're going to be using on you, and then leave you there for a couple hours to stare at them and just imagine what's it going to feel like. Because once they start the beating, you go numb, and it doesn't really matter anymore. But the anticipation is the worst part. I was locked up for about a month because that was my first bigger offense. So a month later, I received amnesty and I got released. Now, I've been a chaplain here in the States since '94. I go to jails, prisons, and I can tell you that the prison system at the time in Romania was a lot worse than here. First 2-3 days, you don't eat at all because you can't get past the maggots in the food. The food, that's exaggerating a little bit, because all it was for breakfast, a dry piece of bread, old sour bread with a cup of tea, no sugar. Lunch was vegetables like potatoes, onions, and sometimes beans, not always, cooked in water. And then dinner was some kind of a oats or some kind of a grain that was cooked in water. That was the worst, because you could hardly find the maggots in it. But you knew they were in there, because I know I picked up like 3/4 inch long maggots out of my food. After about 3-4 days, you pick out the bigger ones and just close your eyes and eat the rest. A week later, you learn that the maggots actually don't have any flavor. If anything, they may have a little bit of a fishy aftertaste, but that's it. Very, very slight. So you learn that it's slimy but satisfying, living with the Lion King saying. When they released me, they gave us train tickets to get back to the middle of the country where we were living. And they gave us 11 lei, which is the currency there. That was for a bus ticket from the train station to our little town. Of course, as soon as the police left us there, we went out and bought bread and bought cigarettes. We were both smoking at that time. And then a little old lady was in the train station. She had a little dish with a handle that smelled like cabbage rolls, and we stole it, and yeah, it was cabbage rolls. So finally, we ate a decent meal. Would love to meet her and apologize about it, but by now she probably long gone. She was old at the time. Of course, with the eyes of a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, it's already old. So now with the eyes of a 50-some-year-old, 60-year-old is not even old yet. So I don't know exactly how old she was. She looked old. She probably was going to visit her family. In January of 1987, I tried again to escape the country. I went to a village near the border, and I found 2 teenage boys. They were 17 at the time, who wanted to escape, and they were only living like 5 kilometers from the border, so about 2.4 miles, 2.7 miles, somewhere around there. And they wanted to escape the country. They had a very detailed plan, but they didn't want to escape in January when it was cold, but they wanted to escape in August when it's nice and warm. I told them that, of course, I was lying. I told them I have very rich friends in Hungary waiting for me, and if they help me out now, instead of August, they will be rewarded properly. I didn't have any friends, nor did I have any money at all. But they believed me, and that was the big surprise to me. They believed me. Sunday morning at 10 a.m., we left their house. There was two friends. And at the time, it didn't even click in my mind, but 10 a.m., when usually church services are starting or going on, and we crossed the border at noon. Now, they started to celebrate, and I told them to keep it down until I know for sure where we are. Because I knew from another friend that Romania had actually built fake borders before you actually get to the border. And the border is basically barbed wire fence on one side, then about a 15, 20-foot strip that's plowed and raked, and then a barbed wire fence on the other side. So they can see if you got through. And the soldiers that were supposed to be patrolling and overseeing that part, if they saw footprints going through, they got punished for not being vigilant enough, for not paying attention, for not catching us. But not far from the border, there was a farmhouse. I went up to the house and I asked an old gentleman. He was an old farmer. He was taking care of his livestock. I asked him to tell me where we are. And he said, well, first come inside. So we went inside, and he took us to the kitchen, set us down, put a full log of salami, which I emphasize on the full log of salami because I've never seen a full, not even in the stores there have I seen a full stick of salami. So he put the salami on the table, a big white bread, vegetables. He said, first eat. So we ate, and then he gave us coffee and cigarettes, and he said, are you straight now? I'm like, yeah, I most definitely am, because that much food in one sitting I haven't seen for a whole family, never mind for just a few of us. From there, we went to report at the border patrol station where we were lined up, and the captain says, well, you kids can stay, but you, pointing at me, he said, we're going to take you back. And my blood just ran out completely. I said, give me 3 seconds to start running, and then you can shoot me, do whatever you want to do, but I will not be going back alive, because I've been there, and I told him what they put me through. And then he said, well, okay, never mind, you can stay too. From there, they sent us to Budapest, to the capital of the country, to the immigration office. And of course, we got there, it was midnight, everything was closed. I had some money, just a few dollars, that the Border Patrol exchanged them for forints, the Hungarian currency. So when we get to Budapest, to the immigration office, it's a downstairs office, first floor office, and I could see through the window, I could see some phone number, a phone number on the wall. To this day, nobody could explain to me why that phone number was even there. So I went to the phone booth, dialed the number, and the answer was, hello, this is the National Mental Institute. How can I help you? I'm like, this is starting out pretty good. Starting straight into mental hospital. But nevertheless, we were hungry, we were cold, we were tired, so I told him about the situation and if he could help us. He said, well, are you normal? I'm like, well, I guess define normal, but I think we are. He said, well, I don't know what to tell you then. But he said, call me back in 10 minutes, and we have a doctor also from Transylvania that works here. See if he's working tonight, and if he is, see if he can do anything for you guys. So I called him back 10 minutes later, and the doctor answered. He was working that night, and he gave me the address of the hospital. He said, give it to a cab driver, and I'll intercept you here at the gate, and take you to a room to sleep. That's exactly how it happened. He took us in. He actually gave us also a dinner, and next morning they asked me, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I need a job. I have family to support. I need a job like yesterday. So they actually hired me at the hospital as a maintenance welder for the heating system in the whole hospital. There was 5 of us on the team. After about 6 months, there was another refugee from Transylvania also who came, and he told me about West. He said, this is how West works. He says, you go there, you work a month, you buy a new car. You work 2 more months, you buy a new house. You work 5 more months and you retire. I said, great, where is it? He says, I don't know. So for me to find this wonderful West, by the way, I'm still looking for it. For me to find this wonderful West, the only option that I had, because in Hungary, I was safe, but I wasn't allowed to travel. Hungary was about 50 years ahead of Romania at the time. So I could help my family, but not as much as I was hoping to. So for me to find this wonderful West, the only way I could figure out is join the French Foreign Legion, survive a 5-year term, which at the time it was a 27% survival rate. It's a mercenary army for hire to the highest bidder. So, and if I survive that 5 years, I knew I will get a retirement and I will get an international passport so I can travel throughout the world and find this wonderful West. I found the train that was going from Budapest to Paris. It was kind of docked in a darker side of the train station. It was leaving every morning at about 6 o'clock to Paris. First night, I searched on the top of the train, in between the ceiling and the roof, for places to hide. Because I was warned that the soldiers, the border patrol between Austria and Hungary, they search the train with dogs. So I had to find something that the dogs won't be able to pick up. First night was in the ceiling, was above the train, on top of the train. Second night, within the train. And I made myself little gadgets to open all the little doors in the train. Couldn't find anything big enough to hide in there. The third night, I was searching under the train. Now, the trains in Europe, most of them, 98% of them are electric. When they are docked, they have only 24 volts through the system, just basically survival mode. But then when the antenna raises up, it's 4,000 volts through the whole system. So I had to be very careful where I hide also, because 4,000 volts won't even give me a second chance of saying I'm sorry. I would be fried instantly. So I'm crawling under the train. Of course, I couldn't use a flashlight, because if I did, the police would pick me out of there. I'm crawling between the train tracks, kind of feeling my way around, and suddenly I hear commotion. So I quickly dodge behind duck behind the wheel, a tire, wait, and it's quiet. So pretty soon I started moving again, and I hear this commotion again. So I jump back behind the same tire, and this time I waited longer, and pretty soon I hear the commotion again, and I started looking, and in the dark I see a little shadow, and it was a porcupine. He was also escaping the country, probably. Same train, same destination. I was only glad that I didn't jump behind the wheel on that side, or I would have ended up wearing the needles of the porcupine on me. So that night, I found a place that was kind of like a chain link cage protecting something. I didn't know what it was. I wasn't familiar with trains. I was hoping it's not electric, and it was not. Obviously, I'm still standing here. So I crawled in there. In the bottom of the chain link cage, there was 3 items, which I found out later it was a pump, a valve, and a filter. And alongside of me, there was a big radiator, 6-foot-long radiator. That was for the hydraulics of the train. So as soon as the train took off at 6 o'clock, about 15, 20 minutes later, everything got very hot. So I couldn't sit in the cage unless I sat in yoga positions, because everything was sizzling hot. Well, not sizzling quite, but too hot to the touch. So I spent a lot of time on a 2-inch angle iron, balancing on the bottom of the train. Now, if you ever go to Europe, or if you ever been to Europe, you know that the trains are flying a lot faster than here. And they're booking. So it was a little bit of a challenge to balance there. We got to the Austrian border, and I saw the soldiers' feet, but they didn't have the dogs that day. Don't know why. Probably they called in sick. But look, fortunately for me, they weren't there. Otherwise, they would have picked me right out. About 7.5 hours later, we arrived to Vienna, Austria. In the train station, there's a little kid. He was so short, he looked right at me. And of course, told Mom. Mom looked, called the police. And the police came there and they're like, "Kommen Sie raus." Of course, I didn't speak German at the time at all, but this is pretty universal. That's the end of the line. Plus, he had the uniform and the sidearm. Back home, the police had full power, full authority. So they could beat you on the sidewalk. They could beat you anywhere they want. They could come kick down your door and beat you in your own house, and then give you a reason or not even give you a reason. That didn't matter. You ended up beaten. So my fear of the uniform already dictated that I need to get out of there. They took me to the police station and put me in front of a mirror, and they showed me my ID picture from Hungary. It was white. I was black. I mean, I was black. This was the 7th of August, so it was hot anyhow. But then add that radiator blasting the heat on me, so I was black with lines on me from the sweat. So they made me understand that I need to wash my face so at least they can identify the right color or not. Afterwards, they sent me to the main refugee camp in Austria, where you spend about 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, you take care of a lot of paperwork. For example, where are you from? Why are you here? What's your plan? Where you want to go? And so forth. So you can apply to different countries at the same time also. 2 weeks later, they sent us out to different refugee points throughout the country. Motel owners, hotel owners had a contract with the government. They didn't actually rent the rooms out to tourists, but they housed refugees, immigrants like myself. So they placed us out. It was a small motel. It was only about 20 of us refugees there. Of course, automatically, I needed to find a job right away. The Austrian government gave us $40 a month for personal needs, but we had no right of work, so they didn't allow us to work. I needed the money. I needed to send money home to my family, so did a lot of jobs that were not glamorous by any means. Austrians wouldn't touch it, but it had to be illegally anyhow. Did stealing, breaking in, anything and everything that made me some money so I can send some money home. An interesting fact, where I was living, it was an apartment building, a 5-story apartment building, and in the whole building there was only one phone, and that was our neighbor, next door neighbor. For me to be able to talk to my family, I spent nights in the phone booth because Romania had only 6 international phone lines. So you can imagine all the refugees are trying to call home. So it was sometimes spent the whole night without getting through, just busy signal. But eventually got through, and then we established the next phone call time so they knew to stay awake. I had to call at night because at daytime there was absolutely zero chance to get through. At night, at least, there was a chance. So spent time in the phone booth like that. In beginning of the year 1990, a farmer came to our place and he was looking for help to pour concrete in a big barn. Of course, I was it, so I helped him, and he liked how I worked, so he introduced me to his brother, who had a semi-company, international semi-company, and a big gravel pit. So he took me over to his brother for a trial period. And 2 weeks later, he liked how I worked, so he took me on full-time. Also paid for my driver's ed school, which was it ended up being about $4,000. But there was something that he liked in my work that he figured it was worth the investment. Of course, I paid him back later. Summer of 1990, about mid-June, towards the end of June, there was a group of college kids that came to our place to share the gospel, share the Bible with us. Now, they were from Germany, from England, and they were spending their summer vacation visiting different refugee points like this. I was never interested in any religion. From little kid on, I learned I cannot count on anything or anybody. It's either me or nothing. So I learned to only trust in myself. So religion to me was a necessary nothing. It's necessary because it keeps people together, but it's nothing. You can't show it to me. So when these kids came, I always sat in, not because of what they had to say, but because the girls were cute. That's the only reason. Every time they came, I unbuttoned my shirt. I did martial arts from little kid on. So I was always fairly well built. So I unbuttoned my shirt. I had a big afro. My hair was very curly. It grew only one direction, and that's up. So I had a big afro. I had my earrings, smoking my cigarettes, tried to snag one of the girls, but they were not interested in me any more than I was interested in what they had to say. So August arrives, and their summer vacation is winding down. So they said, if I go to church with them one time, they will stop bothering me. Well, I was always, after I saw that I have no chance with the girls, I was polite enough to, okay, you came this far, I'll sit in, but my ears are shut tight. So it was okay with me if they stopped coming. I told them, if I go to a church, I'm a sinful person. I know who I am. I know myself. I did a lot of bad things in my life, so if I go to a church, the cross is going to fall off the steeple. The only church I knew at the time, it was the Catholic Church. So automatically imagine church, steeple, cross, falling down when I even come near it. They said, no, it's not like that. There is no steeple, there is no cross, so I don't have to worry about it. I said, well, if I go in the church, then your saints are going to run out of the building, the statues, the paintings, and all that. They said, well, not a problem. There's no statues, no buildings, no paintings, unless you're afraid, of course, we understand. And I told him, I'm not afraid of you, your church, or your God. They said, well, prove it. Come to church Sunday. Excuse me. Miller Lite. So I told him I'm not afraid, so I went to church with them Sunday. When I walked in, it was about this size church, about 30, 35 people in the church. Of course, I dressed the way I knew how to dress on the streets, so it wasn't exactly church-worthy. Plus, with the earrings, with the afro, with the way I looked, they kind of stepped back a little bit and got out of my way, which it was just fine by me. I sit down the third row from the back by the window on the right side. So that's why I'm pointing that direction, because I was on the right side. I figured at least I'm going to watch the birds in the bush, I'm going to watch the pedestrians, anything but have to listen to what they have to say there. So they started singing, and they sang, and they sang. And the amazing part for me was that there was not a single rock and roll in the whole bunch. All they sang is these religious songs. I was about to pull my hair out. Maybe that's why I'm bald, from all the singing. Then eventually they stopped singing, so one person stood up, prayed for everything, from the ant to the elephant. It felt that way. I'm like, wow, that's exhausting about everything there is. Well, I didn't know there were 5 more prayed like that. So it was extremely annoying, extremely annoying. Plus, that day I had to be sober, which it was very hard because under my bed was full of wine bottles, full bottles, not empty. So every morning when I woke up, first thing I did, I reached down, popped the cork out of a 750 milliliter bottle, drank the whole bottle, smoked about 7, 8 cigarettes. I was smoking up to 3 packs a day, all non-filter cigarettes. So I had to be sober. I couldn't drink my morning wine, and I wasn't allowed to smoke. So this was dragging out way too long for me. Usually I lasted 12 minutes between cigarettes. I woke up at night periodically to smoke a couple cigarettes and went back to bed. So when I had to sit there in this church through all that annoying stuff and no alcohol, no nicotine, I was suffering. I was literally suffering. About 11:04, and the only way I can explain this is imagine the lights turned off in this room, the curtains drawn, the doors are closed, so it's semi-dark in the room. So you don't see the details. You see my contour, you see the contour of the objects, but you don't see the details nor the colors. And then somebody decides to turn on the lights, and then suddenly you see the colors that you had no idea of, the details that you didn't even know it existed. And I realized all these people, they had a joy on themselves, about themselves, around themselves. I'm technically the only moron in the building. Like I said, I learned from little kid on to be self-sufficient. I also learned to hide my emotions, because emotions are weakness. Well, at that moment in the church, I didn't care who sees me, why they see me, how they see me. I was just so overwhelmed with this wonderful feeling. For the first time in my life, I felt safe. Obviously, in my home, I wasn't safe. The only place I was safe is on the streets, because I could at least fight my way through problems. For the first time in my life, I felt loved. Not girlfriend kind of love, not friend kind of love, but something a lot more intense, a lot deeper, a lot stronger, and it was overwhelming. I was completely floored. I just didn't know what to make of it. So after church, I was going to go to the tavern, but I didn't. I was so preoccupied with these feelings that I went home, about 2 miles walking distance. I walked home trying to figure out what happened, because, like I said, all my life I had to figure out what's happening for my sake and for my siblings' sake. I could not figure it out. All week went on by like that. So finally, following Sunday, I went back to church, and I grabbed the first man in church that I found, and I asked him if they cast spells. Because you remember my father went on and had them curse me to die. So we believed in that stuff. He says, no. I said, do you put something in the air? He said, what are you talking about? So I told him what I was talking about. He said, well, that's easy. That's the Holy Spirit. I said, dude, I don't care what you call it. I just want more of it. He said, no problem. So he called 2 more guys there. They laid hands on me and prayed for me. And it came back, but not like the first time. Now it came back amplified. Okay, it was like if you showed me a bird that's flying in midair and tell me to catch it, I would start jumping, because I was sure I could fly just like the bird. I felt so great. I was never going to marry, because I watched my parents. They were fighting, yelling all the time. So I knew what I inherited from them. So I wasn't going to destroy somebody's life with my baggage. But when I walked into the church that day, that second Sunday, up front there was a blonde girl with her back to me, so I couldn't see her face. She was playing the guitar and she leading the worship. She was dressed very modestly, so I wasn't looking at her body either. But it was obvious to me that she's going to be my wife. Don't know why, don't know how, but she was going to be my wife. So end of August, I accepted the Lord as my Savior. In September, I was baptized. In October, I asked her hand in marriage. She said yes. The church said absolutely not. They said, well, if you put all the events in order, a Romanian refugee comes to church, becomes a Christian in no time flat, and wants to marry the American missionary, which to me was a little bit of a news because I didn't even know she was American. They said, well, obviously you want to get to the States. Well, I never wanted to come to the States. I didn't know anything about the States. I didn't know the language. I didn't know the culture. All I knew, it was the communist propaganda, and that was not attractive at all. But I knew she will be my wife. What's amazing, that same Sunday, she received the same message that she will be my wife. So when I asked her hand in marriage, she wasn't surprised at all. She was like, yeah, of course. You know, it's a given. So the church said, you have to wait 2 years before you marry her. I'm like, I haven't waited for 2 years for anything in my life. I'm not about to start. But her parents wanted to meet me, and her parents are from Peoria. And at the time, I didn't understand why they wanted to meet me. What's the point? I'm marrying their daughter either way, so it doesn't make any difference. But then I have 2 girls, and I learned why they wanted to meet me, because I wanted to meet my future son-in-laws also, just to run them through the ringer a little bit and screen them properly. They were my baby girls, so of course nobody was worthy of them, but I compromised. They have very good husbands. They have great families. So we came in 91, we got married in Peoria and stayed only 3 weeks, went back and lived in Austria for another year, during which time the church apologized about their lack of trust, because they saw that my goal is not to come to the States, but I honestly meant to marry her, and I honestly meant to become a Christian. So it was nothing theatrical about it. There was nothing played. It was the honest truth. When her father took us back to Chicago in 91, he whispered one thing into my ear. He said, bring my daughter home at some point. Now, I didn't speak English at the time, so I almost missed my wedding. The guy that I was baptized with in Austria, he was also from Romania, from Transylvania. He wanted to come to the States, so he learned English from kid on. He was preparing. So when I came in 91, in January of 91, to the States, we agreed that he prays there and I pray here, that he will make it to the States to be my interpreter, so I don't jump up and say yes or no in the wrong time throughout the wedding procession, or the wedding sermon. In fact, I almost missed my wedding. Every evening they were sitting around the table making all the plans, and my wife to be at the time forgot to translate every so often. So finally, Friday evening, the phone rings, and my friend Felix from Austria, he said, I'm in Peoria. Like, great. So we picked him up, and next morning, Saturday morning, we're down in the basement playing ping pong. My father-in-law comes down all suited, and he's like, what are you guys doing? My friend was interpreting to me, of course. What are you doing? And he said, well, we're playing ping pong. He said, great, you have 40 minutes to be in the car, all dressed ready for the wedding. What wedding? Well, his wedding. I'm like, okay, I'm glad I didn't miss it. It was about to. So, fortunately, from little kid on, God had blessed me with a pretty good language skill, talent. I learned English in 2 months. Well, I learned German in 2 months also, but I learned English also in 2 months by eavesdropping on conversations. Every language has a rhythm and a melody. And once you learn that, you can identify the pauses, which means you can identify the words, and then all you have to do is look up the words. Believe it or not, an average person on a daily basis uses very few words, a couple hundred words all day long at the most. So a lot of words are repeating constantly, so it's easy to learn them, and then you look up the meaning and you know you got the word. So we came back in 92, in May of 1992. We came back to the States. Our first daughter was born in Austria. She was only 2 months old when we came back to the States, moved back to the States. In '94, I told my father-in-law and his brother, they started the Berean prison ministry in '86, unofficially. It became official in '96. But I was telling them, okay, I studied so far 7 languages. I have 5 different trades that I had to learn along the way as I was traveling. I would love to do something for the Lord, but I just don't know what to do for the Lord. I just don't know what I should be doing. And the answer was, until you figure out what you should be doing, you should do what there is to be done. And like I said, by then already knew plenty of English. Oh, little interesting fact about the English language. In 2 months, I learned enough to get a job, get a driver's license, because United States will not accept any outside driver's licenses. So I got my driver's license. But before I started working, which was at first it was for my brother-in-law, they have Noah Herman Sons. It was a construction company. Before I start working, my wife said, "Hey, let's visit my sister in Alabama before you start working, because then you won't have any vacation for a while." So I'm like, "Sure, okay." So we get to Alabama, we go to a restaurant, and I'm like, "Honey, you have to translate because I have no idea what they're saying. I just don't understand a word of it." So it took me a while to learn the southern accent, but eventually I learned. Started going to the jail in '94. That's where it was needed workers all the time, because especially back then it was not popular, the prison ministry. In 2003, we moved back to Romania, and middle lifetime. I will explain that also. With my 4 kids, my wife, and we started doing mission work. We helped at the school teach English as second language to the kids. I went through the village and made friends. I don't believe in your face mission work. I believe in let them get to know you first, and then you can open the subject of God, of the Bible. Because if they are anything like I was, they're going to shut down immediately. You know. What's it going to? Everybody is closing their eyes and looking away. Oh, okay. So I made friends, and eventually we invited people over for dinner, and they invited us over. Every time I made sure they let me pray, ask God's blessing on the meal, and then they started asking questions. Why are you guys so different? Just a few months' time, they realized there was something different about us. So once they asked the question, then opened the door. So, like, this is what we are. This is who we are. This is why we are. And what's that book that you guys read every day? I'm like, well, here, you read it yourself. Find out for yourself what is the book about. And then started a nice Bible study group. In 2004, there was a Hungarian missionary that came from Hungary to Romania, to the same place where we were living, and he wanted to get involved in the prison ministry. I did not want to get involved in Romanian prison ministry because I was locked up there, so I wasn't going to go back willingly. But the pastor knew that I speak both languages perfect, so he asked me to go and interpret the meeting between the Hungarian missionary and the prison director, who was a Romanian. He didn't speak any Hungarian, he didn't speak any Romanian. So I agreed to go as far as the director's office, and I started interpreting the conversation between the two of them. And at one point, the director is asking me, "What about you? Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you here?" So forth. So I had to tell him that I'm from the States and I'm a chaplain already in the States. He said, "Well, if you want to do something, you do it." He said, "This guy is of no use to me. He doesn't know the language, the culture, the system. He doesn't know anything. He is of no use to me. But if you want to do something, you do it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to. I really don't want to. So I struggled with that thought for about 2 weeks. Finally, I called my father-in-law. I pretty much anticipated his answer, and it was what I thought. He said, if God wants to do a work, He will do it with or without you. That's not the issue. The question that you have to ask yourself is, do you want to have part of the blessings that come with this work, or do you not? That's the only question you have to answer. So I went back to the director and I told him, okay, we'll start. Pretty soon, just a few months into the ministry, he started noticing the change in the inmates that were coming to church. And of course, we had Thursdays. Sundays were reserved for the Catholic and the Orthodox Church. So we had Thursdays. And when he saw the improvement in their attitudes, in their behavior, he introduced me to 2 more prisons, and started visiting them one by one. In 2004, we moved back to the States. Every sign pointed in that direction, that we need to come back to the States. First of all, the Bible study group, there was young people. They were in their 20s. They were looking at me, or through me at God. So I was basically creating a solar eclipse between them and God. So I had to remove myself from that. Then my father-in-law was going to have open heart surgery in December that year, and it was very questionable whether he'll make it or not. He didn't make it. So in October, we moved back to the States. We spent some time with them, and he never made it out of the surgery. Of course, the machines were keeping him alive, but he made it clear he does not want to be kept alive on machines. If that's the case, pull the plug. So we've been back ever since. In 2006, I went back to Romania, and I took 2 guys with me from church, Ken Hare and Ken Helmuth. And when we went back, it was an interesting event in the Baptist church. Sunday morning, of course, we went to church, and it was full of gypsies. Now, gypsies are the lowest life form, right between the rats and the nightcrawler, somewhere around there. So they are looked down upon badly. When I started the prison ministry there, when I was used by God to start a prison ministry there was a gypsy who accepted the Lord, and after he got released, he kept on going to the Baptist church. At first the gypsies were making fun of him, then eventually they started to be curious, and when we got there in 2006, there was 26 gypsies dressed in white, and the place was full of gypsies. About this size room, 200 some gypsies crammed in. And this guy was among the ones dressed in white. So it was a baptismal service, but the Hungarians, or the white people, would never allow the gypsies to be baptized in the same baptismal tub as they are. That's a no-no. So we had to haul everybody out to the river and baptize them there. It was April, so it was chilly. And the rivers, we're talking about mountain area, so the rivers are coming from the mountains. They are cold, but they didn't mind it. So I hauled the 2 cans out that came with me, dropped them off. There was only about 4 cars for 200 some gypsies. So I went back and I was looking for Stephen, the initial gypsy, the one that I knew from the prison. When I found him, I said, "Hey, Stephen, get in. You are first to go." He gets in, and that guy didn't finish three years of schooling. He was illiterate. He couldn't read, he couldn't write. But he gets in the car and he says, that's why I imagine it's going to be when Jesus returns. He's going to say, "Stephen, come in." In the simplest form, he got the entire plan of salvation in one sentence. When Jesus returns, he will say, "Come in." That's it. That's what it's all about. So we hauled everybody out to the river. We baptized everybody there. And eventually we bought them a building to have church because, again, the white people were not happy with the gypsies coming to their building. So we ended up buying a building for them. I go back once or twice a year to keep up with volunteers, to keep up with the prison officials, up to government level. Even I had meetings with the Secretary of State, General Director of the prison system, and so forth. Sorry. I didn't mean it, I'm sure. Because the ministry went on national. So currently we are in 21 prisons out of the 37, full-time, every week. We have about 50-some volunteers that go in weekly in every prison that is open to us. And the prisons are open. It's just finding the volunteers it's a little harder because they're poor. They have very little. So it's hard for them to volunteer their time, and definitely are not able to spend the money on the traveling expenses. So we do support them in that direction. We pay for their traveling expenses. And as we find prisons, we can be in all 37 prisons as we find volunteers. Now, like I said, I was only the tool in God's hands. So this is all God's work. I can't take any credit whatsoever. In Romania, for example, takes about 2 months to register a car. Bureaucracy is tremendous. I mean, you have no idea how bad they are. Everything has to be in triplicates, and you have to go to all different offices, and even if you put a sticker on your car, you have to go through a re-registration system again. So it takes about 2 months to register a car. So the prison director, where I first started, he introduced me to the general director of the prisons, and we had a dinner meeting. He said, well, it's fine with me. If you want to start, that's okay. But I need you to put together a protocol, a lesson plan for the year, a goal, a purpose, and so forth. And then when you have that, send it to me. I'll put the stamp on it. Then it goes to the Ministry of Justice. Then from there it goes to the Deputy General Directors. Then from there it goes back to me again. I put the final signature on it, and after that you're good to go. And I thought, okay, well, we get back to the States, probably, I'm looking at about 2-3 years before anything happens. Well, 2 days later, the director calls me. He says, hey, I have a special courier from Bucharest for you at my office. So I went there, and they had a manila envelope, handed it to me, and it was the protocol, written, approved, signed, complete. I mean, that in Romania is a miracle. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. You know, if you were up here animated like me, you wouldn't be cold. Even being a tool in God's hands, the question still remains, what gives us the value? What defines our value? Is it family? Is it possessions? Is it work? Well, none of the above, or all of the above, but in the right order. There's an auction happening, and the auctioneer picks up an old violin. It's old, it's used, not broken, but it's very used. And he says, who gives me $100, $50, $10, nothing. So he sets it down, ready to move on to the next table. Little old man from the back comes up from the crowd, comes up to the table, picks up the violin, tunes it up, plays a short little melody, sweet but short. Sets it back down, walks away. The auctioneer picks up the violin. He says, oh, who gives me 1,000, 1,000, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25,000? Somebody's like, wait. You didn't have a dime on it. Now you're at $25,000 and climbing. What happened? He says, well, that was the hand of the Maker. That's what gives us the value. When the hand of the Maker touches us, that's our value. That's our personality. That's us. That's us by the power of God. Through the power of God. Existing, we exist. Obviously, every one of us occupies space. Think of a lamppost on the sidewalk. It exists. Trust me, if you close your eyes and walk into it, you will know it exists. It's there. But it's of no use whatsoever. There's the post, there's the bulb, there's everything there. But if you don't connect the electricity to it, it's useless. It just exists, but it's useless. You connect the electricity to it. Now, in the dark, you can go up, look at your watch. You can see where you step so you don't step in a puddle. It's raining out there. So it becomes a useful object. Well, the electricity for us is the Holy Spirit. When that shoots through our body, then we exit existence and we enter life. Not just occupying space, but occupying useful space. Being of use. Being of good use in God's hands. Our heart inherently is evil. We know that. We're born in sin. Think of our heart as a tool shed with no windows on it. If you keep it closed for years, when you open it up, what are you going to find in the darkness? Snakes, rats, frogs, spiders, nothing pretty, nothing good. But open up and let the light in, all that has to disappear, has to go away, has to hide because they cannot stand the light. That's our heart. Revelation 3:20, Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. He who hears me and opens, I will come in and dine with him and he with me. I will know him. So all that crud in the heart, in the darkness, and all the light outside. Because God is in the world. God is the world. But then you open the door, and our heart, the door that's on our heart doesn't have a doorknob on the outside. It only has the doorknob on the inside. So God is never going to kick it down. He already did the work. He already showed an example of righteous living. He already died for our sins. He approached us already. He did the hard part. Now the easy part is for us to open the door. When we open the door, all that light, the Holy Spirit comes in, and all that crud has to leave. So light outside, crud inside, light inside, crud outside. Okay? God gave us from the very beginning a freedom of choice. From Adam and Eve, when he put them in the Garden of Eden, why do you think he put this one tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the middle of the garden? To cause them to sin? To trip them? No. He put that there because he gave us the right to choose. And if I give you the right to choose between this bottle and nothing else, how can you practice your freedom of choice if I gave you only one item? In the garden, everything was good except for the one tree. He put it there so they could live with the freedom of choice. Of course, they chose poorly. So now the equation is flip-flopped. In the garden, everything was good, one bad. Now in the world, everything is bad, it's only one good. And that's Jesus Christ. Only through him, by him, and with him, we can live and we can look forward to the tomorrow, to the future. The future will come. Kung Fu Panda. I like cartoons. The turtle, the Grandmaster, tells the panda, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why it's called the present. And if you think about it, that's actually quite deep. Yesterday's history, we can learn from it, but we don't need to dwell on it. We have to leave it behind. Tomorrow, we don't know what's going to happen. It's a mystery. We don't even know what the next 3 minutes are going to bring. We can have an educated guess, but that's all it is a guess. But today is a gift. Today, this is the present, the gift. Today is what matters. Because in Matthew 25:31, when the Lord returns in all his glory and all the holy angels with him, he will separate the nations as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Now, little side mark on that. My grandfather, after he retired from the mines, he went into shepherding. And he had about 300 some sheep under his care. And they always put about 10 to 12 goats with them, with the sheep. I could never understand why. I still don't know why they did that. The sheep are dumb. I used to raise sheep. I had a fence line. I moved the fence so they have more pasture. And I could not chase them across the old fence line for anything. I actually literally had to grab them and toss them across the fence line so they realize there is no fence anymore, so they can take all that pasture. They dumb, but they know one thing and they know it very well. They know to follow the shepherd. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, so I follow. And if I follow, good things happen. The goats, on the other hand, will go 10 goats will go 20 different directions. My job being young was to chase the goats back over and over and over again. So when he separates the nations, he is going to say to those on his right, "Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." And there's a list of, because you did this and this and this and this and this. But then verse 41, a contrast to the previous verse. It said, "Depart from you, cursed ones, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels." See, hell was never created for people, never intended for people. Hell was created for Satan and his followers, his angels. Now, his followers, if they are people, will share the same faith, will share the same space with Satan. By choice, by simple choice. Because of what we do, because of what we say, because of what we think, because of what we see, we place ourselves in one group or the other. There is no middle way. There is no happy medium. There is either one or the other. And Satan knows that we have a good idea that there's a God, and we have a good idea that's got to be good. But he will trick us. He says, repent. Satan will tell you to go to church. Satan will tell you to be baptized. Satan will tell you to live a holy life. But not today, tomorrow. There was a restaurant back home that closed down, and they posted, "Closed today, open tomorrow." 3 years later, was still closed today, open tomorrow. They never put a date on it. Well, Satan doesn't put a date on it either. He knows there will be a today that will not have a tomorrow. So if he keeps us off the path just long enough, he wins. You know, the doors are open. If you're 6 inches off the opening, you can keep on walking forward until kingdom come, and you will never make it through that door because you're 6 inches off the opening. That's all it takes. And Satan knows, he says, this is the path. You're only 6 inches off. What's the big deal? You're on it, you're off of it. Any given time, you can step back on it. Except the tomorrow that will never come, if catches you 6 inches off the opening, you never make it through. You cannot. It's a concrete wall. And he knows that. He knows to trick us. Satan is extremely dumb. Okay, he's stupid. It has to be a special kind of stupid to try to tempt God with his own creation. Okay? He told Jesus, all these kingdoms are given unto me. I'll give them to you if you bow down to me. It's like, I created them. It's mine. How can you give me what's mine already? So he's extremely stupid. But he also has a lot of practice in tricking people. He is stronger than we are. He's smarter than we are. So he can trick us because he has a lot of practice. But the equation is a lion versus me. I'm dead. There's no doubt about that. But a lion versus me on an elephant, the lion is dead, no doubt about that. That's the difference. If I'm with God, I'm on a bull elephant. I have the ultimate power on my side. I have the ultimate wisdom on my side. I don't have to know all that. I just have to know that God is on my side and I'm with Him. So the lion, in 1 Peter says, Satan roams the streets like a roaring lion, seeing whom he may devour. Well, if you're on your own 2 feet on the ground, he will get you. He will devour you. There is not a single chance that you stand to not be killed by the lion. But if you're with God, now it changes. Everything changes. Now He's the little guy, and we're with the big guy. We're on the big guy's team. That's the difference between life and death. I told you I will explain to you the middle light thing. Back home, the Carpathian Mountains are volcanic. There's a lot of high concentration of CO2 in the ground. So we have natural carbonated water springs. Comes out of the ground carbonated. So I grew up with that. So now when I drink carbonated water. I have to drink a lot of times, often, because today, to the date, okay, I had 35 major surgeries. I'm missing 4 major organs. So I have to stay hydrated, or I'm going to end up in the hospital again. But in James chapter 1, it says, "Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." If I give you a weight, I'm not going to tell you how much it weighs. How do you know if you can pick it up or not? If you actually try it. How do we know if the next challenge in life, the next obstacle that Satan is going to try to roll in front of us, we can stand our ground and let God work unless we try it? So our current state is a preparation for the next phase. Our current problem is the strength for the next phase. All we need to do is just be present.